So Mary Douglas in 1966 wrote this terrific book called Purity and Danger. And one of her ideas in this was to look at that which is so basic to us and seems so logical to us and show that we too, us smart moderns, are surrounded by these sacred, profane, binary structuring systems. Her book was, for the most part, about dirt, about cleanliness. And what she tried to show us is that not everything that we do to be clean is really about hygienic cleanliness, about actually fighting bacteria, but that our cleanliness rituals are as much about keeping order, social order, and order in our lives, keeping the sacred and profane apart, as they are anything else. Here, let me give you some examples here. First, there are some beliefs about cleanliness in our world. So we believe that somebody's ability to be clean or not, to present themselves or clean or not, tells us something about who they are. So we have this symbolic belief about cleanliness that it reflects on some internal state on people. Now we have phrases like you can't read a book by its cover as a way to tell us not to do this. But that phrase is only so common because what is even more common is a classifying process that we think cleanliness, i.e. the cover, says a lot about the person inside, i.e. the book. Now, there are as Mary Douglas was great at pointing out, there are places that expose the fact that this purity belief around cleanliness equals good character isn't actually logical, that it's something based on keeping moral order, not in logic. And let me give you some examples that give off the fact that it's not actually logical. So for example, if we meet somebody or if we're looking at somebody's dorm room, say, versus their dorm room desk versus maybe the desk they have at their work-study job somewhere on campus. These are both desks, both places where work are able to be done, but one's a total mess, the dorm room. It's got old coffee cups, old French fry wrappers sitting there, and the work desk is totally clean. Now, if your friend were to visit you at both of those desks, their image of your cleanliness, of your kind of deep personal integrity of cleanliness wouldn't change at all, because they would know intuitively, well, one of them is kind of their kind of hidden personal life and one is this more public life. But to a professor, if they were to come knocking on your door and want to look at your dorm room desk or your apartment desk, you would be all sorts of shocked and mortified because, and this is important, because that image of your messy dorm room desk would violate kind of this sacred profane distinguishing of purity and give away or expose this system of moral order whereby that external view of cleanliness and goodness is supposedly the view into deeper view into who you are. Cleanliness in this system that we have, where we think cleanliness is about hygienic, actually cleanliness is oftentimes about demarcating where certain things are supposed to be happening and where certain things are supposed to not be happening. So one of the kind of inside jokes about college is that working, sleeping, eating all seem to happen in the same place. Now, we oftentimes think of that of like, oh, well, that's just college life, or oh, well, that's just what you do in college. But that actually reveals that college is kind of this liminal place where these kind of cleanliness rules are allowed to be flexed a little bit, because in most of the rest of the social world, there are actually rather clear distinctions between where you clean, where you sleep, and where you eat. Those usually aren't able all to collapse into one because we are trying to keep some sort of social order in our lives. Whereas in college, it kind of gives away the fact that this system we have of keeping purity and keeping out moral / social danger is different. So think of some other places where this system of purity and danger, sacred and profane, cleanliness and uncleanliness happen. Or places where it exposes the fact that cleanliness isn't just about hygienics. Think about sweat, for example. If you're in the gym at the University of Arizona, there's some level of being okay with the fact that you're surrounded by tons of sweating people, and that in fact you may even brush against a sweaty person, or you may use the same doorknob as a sweaty person, or you might go right on to the bench press right after some other sweaty person got done being there. You might wipe it off and kind of take care of the hygienic part of it, but the fact is you sit right down in that place where all the sweat was happening before. But in the library, would you do that? If somebody showed up soaked in sweat in the library and sat near you, or sat on the seat that you then immediately sat on, would that be okay? No. And it's not because all of a sudden the library is a place where cleanliness is great and the weight room isn't, but because these are places in our social order where different things happen. So cleanliness rules also give us a sense of what places are meant for. Think about your room versus your closet. Many of you, if you're like me, may have quite a nice bedroom, quite a nice clean bedroom, but a crazy, messy, dirty, disorganized clothes closet. One of those is okay to be disorderly because nobody sees it, right? Your closet, you close the doors, that leads to all sorts of jokes about skeletons in the closet, right? It's a closed off space. It's allowed to be dangerous and chaotic. But our room, especially say when maybe our spouse is there, or we're trying to show an example for our children, or maybe we're having somebody over for the first time, some dinner guests, is different. We're supposed to kind of keep that orderly and clean. And that shows us that these cleanliness rules are about showing who we are, about showing our own role in social order, and about keeping this purity and danger relationship in place. Let me give you one final example of where cleanliness rules come into play that aren't about hygiene. Certain occasions, for example, require heightened awareness of cleanliness, like on a date. Now, in the course of daily life with your good friends, you might not worry so much that you look a certain way, or that every hair is in place, or that you've brushed your teeth within the last half hour. But on a date, there's heightened sensitivity, and it's not about cleanliness, but it's about exposing your ability to manage moral order in the type of person you are, whether you show up to that date with a nice clean shirt and brushed teeth and nicely placed hair and the right hat on your head. Those are about showing your ability to correctly keep order in this symbolic system of purity and danger, not about hygiene. So what Mary Douglas, what Zerubbabel, what others help us to see is that classification processes are always occurring around us. There are certain places where we can see classification processes occurring. Mary Douglas helped us to see that symbolic pollution beliefs are one type of classification, are one type of classification system. But what they help us to see is that classification is always occurring, that what we see is logical, or for example about cleanliness, when we dig as sociologists with Durkheim's ideas about sacred and profane, when we dig deep enough, we see it's not about some sort of natural logic or not about cleanliness, but instead is about keeping social order and, importantly, the moral order of society together. So I'll leave it at there for now. I hope you've gotten the main points here about the sacred and profane system of binary relations of classification, of some examples like symbolic pollution or a number of the other ones that I read off, and see how in Durkheim's view it really was born in those ritual moments that we had talked about before, that even in our life these things, these classification processes are always happening and always changing. So good luck on that midterm. Have a great spring break, and as always, email me those questions.